I brought a handout as well, so apparently we wanted to do that tonight. My next collection of poetry, these are some of the illustrations that are in it, and I'm just experimenting with different ways of bringing illustration into readings. So this is an experiment. Let me know if you liked having the pictures with the words. Thanks to Tree for inviting me, and reading last after being so actually nourished is, I'm just full of so much other poetry. I'm not that interested in mine at the moment, so we'll see if I can get into it. I am going to read to you from this new collection of poetry that's coming out this coming October. I've never read these poems to anybody, so I'm testing them on you. If you hate them, you have to tell me, and if you like them, you can let me know. I like to know that too. And I've got some notes about what I wanted to tell you, and it's sort of typical of me to read these and decide I don't want to tell you any of the things that I thought I was going to tell you. I could tell you this. The poems are, I don't really like to say what they're about, but something inside of this book is about grace and about winter. And I wrote them over 5 years, sort of searching for my own geography, both personal and literally. And also, I kind of tried to figure out the ethics of divorce. So that's a fun thing to try and figure out. But how do we talk about pain without inflicting pain? And I think in the end, after writing all of this and trying to figure it out, I think I came to understanding something like just a little bit about how to love the world as it is. So I think that's what this book is searching for. What else have I decided not to tell you? No, that's it. That's all you get. So I've selected a few poems to read, and so read I shall. This one's called Orange. I've eaten oranges in Botswana and Melbourne, in Freetown and Ottawa, Vancouver and Georgia. I'm not sure if I'm returning. I'm grateful for each orange. Where are you from? The neighbor asks, and my bag of oranges hangs from my elbow. I don't know. I'm here, I say. That's something, he says. I peel an orange and it's dry. I chose it because it was ugly. I thought eating it would make it more beautiful, but no, it's just an orange. Like and unlike every orange. I just went to the eye doctor and found out I need glasses, and it's true. So, move the podium. I ski a lot, cross country, and I have the experience again and again where you get to see where a deer has leapt in the snow, or the tracks of a coyote trotting on the path, or the print of wings in the snow with a little blood from a mouse. And there's something about winter that reveals to us the things we don't see without snow. So, snow. I pressed knuckles and fingers into snow to make tracks when I was a girl. Mouse, rabbit, bear, coyote. I'd break twigs to make tails. All paths are visible in winter. In January, I can see what dogs know in August. This one, you're going to judge me. So, when I was little, we had a lot of cats. And the cats would have kittens, as they do. And I used to put the kittens' heads in my mouth because I liked their meowing. and I I don't know if anyone else has ever done that, but I think as I read this, I think I'm going to keep reading this poem, and one day somebody's going to say, oh, I had the same temptation. Kittens. The world is filthy, I was told, but I knew better. Knew to place the heads of kittens in my mouth and taste without biting. Knew to let the holy world melt on my tongue. My sister furrowed her brow at me. I wanted softness, communion, the mule of a new cat on my tongue. Next one I'm going to read to you is called Scaffolding. Do not doubt the scaffolding of my heart. I'm capable of great science. I press my body against yours. Your blood rises, lifts us, you and me. We expand. Yes, yes, yes. I speak of war. I can't fathom two bodies seeking anything but communion. I'm not naive when I speak the words again, again. Again we find each other in dark. We can make new people. Don't explain the necessity of war to me. Explain love. So you know that dirty ring around elevator buttons and light switches? I think it's a kind of halo. Maybe the book is called The Holy Nothing, so it's no surprise I'm looking for halos everywhere. Yeah, you have a picture there of an elevator button, and I think even a light switch is in there. I think it's the Leaning Tower of Pisa. The marble steps are worn to a curve, and a few years ago, somebody went in to restore those steps and straighten them up. And they thought, oh, I have this idea. I'm going to take the steps and flip them over so that they're flat on the top again. And somebody had already done that. So I think, I don't know, I'm interested in something about the way the repetition of a small action takes something away, so that our footsteps can do that. Or, I don't know, maybe there's acts of love or kindness might slake the same way. So the difference between one act and the same act over and over again, having making its own impression. Halos. There are halos around light switches, elevator buttons. We touch and take something, leave something, smudge of oil, fleck of paint. I hold my heart, its worn marble steps. Can you see it? The dog moon halo of men who paced here, pressed here, took something, left me nearly holy. How do we pronounce solve? Not as in solve a problem, but S-A-L-V-E. Is it salve or solve? Salve? All right, just so that when we get to that word in this poem, everyone doesn't cringe. Salve. Should we vote on it? Should it be? I'm going to say, okay, so here in Ottawa, I could say salve, and it works for us. All right. So a man in town told me this story, and I think the beginning of this story is true, and I think the end of the story I made up. Abuse. Angry that his donkey got into a feed sack, a farmer in South America poured gasoline on her and lit a match. She ran blazing, ears back, circled home winded and raw. He was tender with his salve, cursed himself for cursing her. Pigeon. Love changes us. When what you had destroys you, you go to the park and kick pigeons. You scream into anything that has a mouth. You drop dishes and look at the floor and see the shards of your life that doesn't rise from ashes. Imagine taking a bird apart to understand it. That would tell you nothing. In grade 11, I had to dissect a cat, as did everyone else in my class, in partners, or with partners, in pairs. This one is called Cat. I dissected a cat the year I first read Out, Out, Damned Spot. My lab partner Jackie elbowed me aside. Eager with her scalpel, she hogged our dead cat. I played at Pontius Pilate, washed my hands, failed to feel innocent. The cats were dead before we were told to open them. I wanted to know, were they born for this? Would that make it more right or less? Sarah found kittens in hers, and we were appalled. We laughed and whispered. At home, I took apart my Russian dolls and ate the small one. If we dismantle our marriage, what will we uncover? The first snow falls without falling, so anything's possible, even forgetting. So Rachel's probably familiar with that big blue whale at the Biodiversity Museum in Vancouver. It's suspended, I'm sure it's a mold, and it's suspended from the ceiling, and it's just this vast, beautiful whale. And my friend Nan, when I'm there, she always wants to get in it and sing, which is impossible, but it's really about the only thing you want to do when you see this gorgeous, gorgeous thing suspended from the ceiling. And her husband works at the Biodiversity Museum, and he catalogs, I don't know how old the specimens are, if it's since 1910 or something, but he's working on recataloguing their insect collection. So this poem I wrote for Nan and for Dawn. It's called Museum. Dawn works in the basement of the Biodiversity Museum, photographs wasps and beetles with a microscope, preserving the preserved. A wooden cabinet holds what's been salvaged from the past, and Dawn makes order of it. Nan shows up in her blue scarf to say I love you and stands under the bones of that big blue whale in the lobby. I want to do this. Conserve June in Edmonton with the sunflowers and green deck. Our sargasso, the nasturtiums. Dawn shows us a wasp that lays eggs in a caterpillar. Shows me her spears. They don't eat the heart until the end, he says. I want to grow fat on seconds of perfection, but eat my way around the heart until it's all that's left. We're defined by what we must do. Me leaving, wasps persisting, Nan singing in the bones of a dead blue, and Dawn in the basement saving history. I had an older sister. Well, I still have an older sister. Her name is Rachel, and she was the fort builder in the family. Well, she was the one who was good at it. We both built, but mine tended to be very high up in trees and made out of rotten wood. So I fell out of most of my forts. So this poem is about that and more. It's called Church. Beside Dad, I sang, breathe on me, breath of God, fill me with life anew. I sang hymns in the woods where I strained to distinguish me from forest, mice from snakes by the sound of bellies in grass. Dad said, the forest is God's cathedral. I hauled a sheet of rotted OSB up an eastern cedar to get closer to God, to listen belly up, belt out holy song. God is love, Dad said. Love is Babel, too, wanting to speak languages we don't. Love is the wish to exalt, to fathom. Even then, I didn't understand why God would put a stop to that. I fell out of the sky onto my back, out of the first holy place I made that couldn't bear me. That's the end of childhood. The wind was knocked out of you, Dad said. I was pleased I'd swallowed it. I make soggy basilicas and drop out of them. Tell me love is more than that, hollering for God. I have to test the pronunciation of all these things. I didn't realize that. How do we say shallot here? Is it shallot or shallot? Shallot? Shallot. I find God between the cloves of a shallot, a knife on a woodblock, water on the back of my hand. When we're small, the world isn't metaphor. My water broke, Mum said, when it was time for Joshua to arrive, and I thought the Selly River would bust the door down. Opa is dying. There's water around his heart. He's losing pressure. His heart's been failing him for 20 years, Mum says. Love is complicated by water. The women in Bangladesh beat their chests when babies die. Opa will die and I won't know what to sing. I'll saute shallots and cry. Wash my hands at the sink, moved by the holy nothing. I'll confuse God with shallots. How are we for time? I have 4 more here. That's all right?
Yeah, let's hear them.
All right. So I imagine we're all aware of the fact that we have these big garbage gyres in all of our great bodies of water. And I think I have a picture. The first picture there is of a young albatross chick. So albatrosses are feeding their young pieces of plastic, and it's killing them. I'm interested in culpability. You know, we're all making these big, giant piles of garbage, and these mothers are choosing the wrong stuff to feed their young, but how are we all responsible for that? So, bottle caps. The truth is, I've never had the words, but I've tried my best. I've been homeless except in love, which can't be made of anything but love. The albatross is mistaken when she fishes plastic from waves, but that doesn't mean we aren't culpable. I mistook bottle caps for love, I know. Fishes skittered below the surface like a skein of geese, and I didn't see them. I don't blame the albatross, or you. Still, you're liable. You were very unkind, you know that. I don't want to call it anything else, even if there are better words. I have a very wonderful neighbor who lives across the street and is now sitting across from me here, Leslie. And I guess it was last year we were sitting with that hyacinth around Christmas. Leslie had made being the perfect neighbor. She had mason jars with earth in them, and she'd planted hyacinth bulbs in all these jars for the neighbors. And she had one on her sill with a rotten bulb in it that had never sprouted. And so we talked. We talked forever. I think we talked for about 3 hours about a lot of things, but I don't have a 3-hour poem for you. But I have something about that hyacinth. Hyacinth. We must stand in the woods and tell the truth, Leslie says. It's that simple. She pours an Arctic blend made of cornflowers, crowberry, and birch. We think about her hyacinth that didn't bloom. The jar of dirt and rot sits between our painted teacups, and she says a boy in Labrador was swept onto an ice floe. Search and rescue turns into recovery. Recovery turns to mystery and burden. We can choose what to do with grief. If we don't, it becomes a country. We must stand with trees and tell the truth. Sing it if we're brave. Listen if we're strong. The next poem I wrote while my nephew still believed in the tooth fairy. As of this Christmas, he has stopped believing in the tooth fairy. He was on the bus with his friend Will, who told him the tooth fairy was not real, and he promptly told Will that Santa Claus was not real, and then they went to school. So this is back in the days of the tooth fairy. It's called Wales. We're asked to carry the world, and so we do. My nephew, worrying the tooth fairy can't find him in the woods just out of Inverary. I'm waiting for him to fall asleep. The fire is snapping as it does. The geese are still, as they always are when dark comes. In the morning they will fly south. Hummingbirds cross the Gulf of Mexico. Did you know, my nephew says, as sleep seeps in, did you know that before boats, whales could sing to their mates all the way around the world? I wonder how he's doing, the man I loved and failed to love, if he's still angry, if he'd ever cross anything for love. If we were to clean up all the garbage, what sound would we make to each other? My nephew falls asleep and I slip change under his pillow. If only change could so easily be slipped. Beavers. Sunlight slides across the dog in 4 perfect squares, the window moving without moving. I sit beside tulips craning for light. The river is cold this time of year. Somewhere under the lodge I can't hear the family of beavers making noises I long to. Grace. I balance on silence in my skis after lunch. Snow's not rain, love's not grace. I suppose what I wanted was grace, a version of atonement that required nothing of me. Of course I forgive you, that was never the question. Spring comes and means nothing, but it's still holy. So thank you, Tree, for inviting me and hosting. Thank you to all the poets who read tonight. And thanks everybody for listening.